a short period as interim regent of the newborn Finnish state, Mannerheim retreated into a comfortable life as a national hero, living off a fund raised by the people for his income, until the Second World War saw him return to the heart of power, picking up where he had left off 2 decades earlier. Now in his 70s, he once again took to the world stage, now as Commander-in-Chief of the Finnish army, and, for the second time, steered his country through the Armageddon of European war with its independence intact. The price Finland paid for its survival was harsh: the death of almost 100,000 soldiers and a military alliance with Hitler's Third Reich between 1941 and 1944, for which Mannerheim held responsibility as Commander-in-Chief. Not surprisingly, the Marshal has been both adulated and vilified for the decisions taken during these troublesome years. Mannerheim's life and legacy are thus closely intertwined with the dramatic twists and turns of Finland's history as an independent state. For a long time, the concept of geopolitics as a meaningful way to understand events was severely tarnished by the experiences of the 2 world wars. But gradually, the concept has become relevant again. As we have seen in Ukraine, geography, along with the control of strategically important territories and trade routes, simply continues to be a decisive factor in international politics. Mannerheim seems almost an embodiment of this truth. Finland's border with Russia constitutes the longest and, in some senses, the sharpest frontier between civilizations in Europe. As such, the country has often been a pawn on the international chessboard. Even to this day, geopolitics still has a considerable impact on Mannerheim's reputation in Finland. How the Second World War is commemorated and how the Marshal is viewed often go hand in hand. The first editions of this book were published in Finnish and Swedish in June 2017 for the 150th anniversary of Mannerheim's birth. Foreign interest in the Marshal has only grown since then, with the biography brought out in Estonian and Russian in 2018 and 2020, respectively. With this English translation, it has now been published in 5 languages, which I am naturally proud of and thankful for. Henrik Meinander, Helsinki, January 2023. 1. Childhood and Adolescence. Unrest and upheaval. At 7:15 in the evening, Helene had a healthy baby boy. So reported Louise von Julien to a close relative on the 4th of June 1867, after she had assisted in the birth of her stepdaughter's 3rd child. The grandmother had washed the newborn and described him as kind and jolly, which were not exactly qualities for which the boy would always come to be known later in life, serving as a reminder that we all start out as blank slates. The birth took place in Louhisaari Manor in southwest Finland, a stately stone mansion from the 17th century, which had been a home for the noble family since its purchase by Carl Erik Mannerheim in the 1790s. While the baby's delivery went smoothly, the mood was sombre, for the newborn's aunt had only recently died in childbirth. Hence the christening, held 3 weeks later on Midsummer's Eve, was solely for the immediate family, with the grandmother as the only godmother in attendance. In a letter to her sister in Sweden, Helene Mannerheim complained that not a single person was glad about the boy's arrival. He would, however, go on to become more famed and feted than anyone else in 20th century Finland. He was baptized Carl Gustaf Emil, but was usually called Gustaf. The first 2 names had been borne by many of his forefathers. The last came from his oldest uncle, Ironmaster Emil Lindsay von Julien, who would later try to guide his nephew down the right path with the help of moral insights from British literature. While Mannerheim could have arrived into the world at a more propitious moment in history, there is no doubt that he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. On numerous occasions in his early career, he would get himself out of a tight spot with the aid of his uncle's money and his noble relatives' contacts, above all.